Welcome to this meeting of the Eastern Area Planning Committee, Wednesday, 2nd of April 2025. For the benefit of the public attending today on the live stream, I'm Councillor David Cook, Chair of this committee. My Vice Chair is Councillor Sally House. The meeting is being live streamed and will be available to view on the Council website after the meeting. Excuse me. By attending this meeting, you consent to being filmed. I remind everyone that when you're speaking, please speak directly into the microphones so it can be clearly heard and seen. The Planning Committee is not a public meeting, but a meeting to which the public is invited. All attendees must comply with the ruling of the Chair. They must not interrupt the meeting or cause undue disturbance. To support this, please switch off your mobile phones or select silent mode.
Someone's got something on.
Thank you. Almost. Is it still going to? Okay. It's not a public meeting, it's a meeting to which the public is invited. It's not interrupt the meeting or cause undue disturbance. To support this, please switch off your mobile phone, select silent mode for the duration of the meeting. And those using Teams, please ensure microphones are on mute and your device volume is set to 0 to maintain audio quality. Only those who have registered to speak in accordance with the speaking protocol will be invited to address the committee for a maximum of 3 minutes. That will be limited to the first 3 people objecting to and the first 3 people supporting the application who have registered along with the parish council and ward member. No material is to be circulated to members of the committee. We have 4 applications to determine today. Case officer will be invited to present the report and recommendations. Next, I'll invite members of the public who have registered to speak with the Democratic Services Officer before the deadline to address the committee in the following order: public against, public support, applicant or agent, towns or parish council, and ward members. Each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes. Following on from the registered public speakers, the planning officers will have the opportunity to address any salient points they wish to clarify, and committee members will be given the opportunity to ask questions of the planning officers before moving on to their debate. When we go into councillor questions and debate, for the benefit of the public option, can the members state their name and ward when addressing the meeting? The officers present today are Kim Cowell, who is our Eastern Development Manager, Elizabeth Adams, our Eastern Area Team Leader, Ellie Lee, Planning Officer, Laura Altree, who is our Senior Lawyer, Megan Rochester, over in the corner there, and who's a Senior Democratic Services Officer, and Joshua Kennedy, who is a Democratic Services Officer. Do you have any apologies, please?
Yes, so we've received apologies for today from councillors Andy Skeets, Spencer Flower, and Barry Gorringe.
Okay, thank you. Does any member have an interest to declare at this point? Councillor Sally House.
Thank you. Councillor Sally House, Corfmullen Ward, declares an interest in item number 7 as ward councillor, where I'll be speaking. Consider myself predetermined and will leave this desk and move to the public area and speak in turn. And Scott is a shared ward councillor and will be doing the same.
Okay, thank you.
Can I?
Sorry, Alex, yes.
Can I just say, there's some confusion, I think, about which link we join. I've got 2 here. I joined one and it told me I was the only person there. So So
Yes, not
are we, is that the one or is that the one? Okay, I think I've got a few more faces. I'm fine.
Do you reckon?
It's confusing when it's most of them I've seen before.
It's called hybrid language. The other one's just like a calendar.
Has everybody seen the minutes of the previous meeting?
Nice.
Any queries or questions on the minutes? Do we accept those minutes to the true record?
Yeah.
Just, yeah. Okay. In terms of the public, you will get an opportunity to speak after the presentation of the relevant item, or if you wish, you can speak now. Does anybody wish to speak now rather than at the time of their agenda item? Take that as a resounding no. So we can move to the first item on the agenda, or the first actual application on the agenda, which is PHOU 2024-06282-6 Cobbs Road, Colne Hill. And this is going to be presented to us by Ellie Lee. Ellie, thank you very much.
Sorry, members, we're just having technical difficulties.
Thank you, Chair. And good morning, members. The proposal before you today is a householder planning application to add extensions to the existing dwelling at 6 Cobbs Road and create off-road parking with a modified access. The application comes before you today, before the committee today, in light of the Parish Council's objection on Greenbelt grounds. There have been 2 letters of support for the application. The officer recommendation is for approval. So the application site is approximately 35 metres from the main urban area of Colne Hill, which is not too far from Wimborne Minster. And the site is within Cobbs Road, as shown with a red outline on this slide. The site is within the Greenbelt and it is within the Burts Hill Merryfield Conservation Area. And as I noted on the previous slide, the site is near to the urban area, which is this blue coloured area here. So the application site is large and it includes a spacious garden, and it is on the southern side of Cobbs Road here. The site is to the west of Beaufort Foundation School, and then it is adjacent to fields. Opposite the application site dwelling and to the north of Cobbs Road are existing 2-storey dwellings. So the dwellings opposite the site are shown on this slide at photos 2, 3 and 4. And photo 3 is taken from within the front garden of the application site, and it's looking through the existing gate at the property towards the house opposite. Photograph 5 is of 3 looking towards 3 Cobbs Road from the lane. And as I mentioned towards the beginning, there are 2 comments in support from neighbours for the application. So these photographs provide some different views from Cobbs Road. Photographs 9 and 10, you can see the front boundary of the application site. Photograph 11 shows the north elevation of the existing dwelling, which faces Cobbs Road. The dwelling house once formed part of the Banks estate, which was bequeathed to the National Trust in 1982, and it is understood to have been purchased by the applicant from the National Trust in 2021. The National Trust retain an interest in the property on which they have a covenant, but this is a private matter and not a material planning consideration. In these photographs, there are more external views of the property, so external views of the existing building. And the main part of the dwelling is 2 stories in height, with a lean-to addition to the north here. There's also a single-story conservatory porch area to the rear. So the proposed site plan is shown here, and it includes the existing dwelling on the right here, and the proposed extensions to the left. And these sit comfortably within the large block, with the link extension being inset slightly from the north elevation. A modest parking area is proposed to the front of the dwelling for 2 parking spaces, and the majority of the site is proposed to be grassed. And most of the existing hedgerow is proposed to be retained, and some trees will be removed. Here is the existing building. The submitted statement sets out that the dwelling is a dilapidated cob cottage, which is in need of extensive repair and refurbishment, but it is capable of renovation, as evidenced in the submitted structural reports. The building has been altered over time and is one of several cob buildings in the conservation area. You can get an idea of the state of the building from these internal photographs of the ground floor of the house. These photographs on this slide are taken from upstairs inside the property. So prior to the submission of the householder application before you today, the proposals have gone through expensive pre-application negotiations, which have involved the National Trust, and they have an interest in the site. This slide in front of you now shows the plans that were put forward for the most recent pre-application, and this is before the submission of the current planning application. The applicant was advised in August last year that although some of the officers' concerns had appeared to have been overcome with the scheme, the pre-application scheme, changes were still required to be made at that time. Before the pre-application last year, there were 2 previous pre-application proposals that were reviewed by officers. These are listed on the slide. Before all of these, a full planning application was refused in July 2022 for a replacement dwelling with 2 stories, which included an outbuilding and an attached carport. So through the pre-application discussions that have taken place, the proposal has evolved, and it has also been informed by the National Trust view. And this is why we are now at the planning application stage today. So the proposed floor plans and elevations are shown here. The design of the extension, that's a single story extension in the slide, it's intended to give the impression of an outbuilding, which is subservient to the existing dwelling, so avoiding pastiche approach. And this facilitates the provision of a sizable addition without overwhelming the character of the existing cottage. Officers consider that this is a significant improvement on the previous schemes. The proposed extensions will therefore improve the living space, and they will bring the dwelling back into use as a single dwelling. So this slide shows the change between the most recent pre-application scheme and the proposal before you today. So the pre-application scheme is in the pink, shown with the pink dotted outline. So you can see how much it has changed and it's been reduced. In terms of Greenbelt, the additions to the dwelling are proportionate additions over and above the size of the original building. This table is taken from paragraph 13.12 of the officer report, and it sets out the changes from the previous proposals and includes the pre-application proposals in the table. The volume and the floor area of the extensions are less than 50% of the original, which in this case supports the officer's judgment. So therefore, the proposed extensions and alterations to the existing building benefit from exception 154C of the National Planning Policy Framework, and the development is not inappropriate. The other main consideration for this application is heritage, as the site is within the conservation area, and the original dwelling is considered to be a non-designated heritage asset. The design has been influenced by pre-application discussions with the National Trust and the Council's Conservation Officer. The removal of the existing lean-to porch, which is currently on the southern elevation, so its removal results in an improved appearance and would allow the existing fabric of the historic house to be better revealed. Amendments were made within the current application, and an ensuite, which was to the eastern side, proposed to the eastern side of the dwelling, was removed from the scheme. The Conservation Officer now has no objection to the application, subject to conditions. So no harm to heritage assets have been identified. So subject to conditions, the scheme accords with local and national conservation planning policy. So in summary, there are no material considerations that warrant refusing the application, and the current scheme has overcome previous concerns. Officers recommend the application for approval, subject to conditions, which are on the following slide. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Annie. Obviously, the recommended conditions there. We have one public speaker on this. I think she's the applicant stroke patient, who is Claire Spiller. If you can give the public speaker says the microphone, there's a little bit of voice speaking you see on the side. We press that, will be heard.
Chairman and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this application. As you've heard, this application seeks permission to erect extensions and create off-road parking with a modified access. The applicants are, of course, very happy to see that the officers have recommended the application for approval, and I trust that you are able to support this recommendation. The application site and the neighbouring dwellings are of varying scale and size within this road and are all within the conservation area and within the green belt. The applicant has worked with your officers to design a scheme preserving the special interest of this non-designated heritage asset, to preserve the character and appearance of the conservation area and to meet the green belt policy in the NPPF on extensions. The NPPF test is that extensions in the green belt do not result in disproportionate additions over and above the size of the original building. Your officers rightly consider that the green belt test is also the visual appearance as judging the acceptability of the extension of volume and floor space on percentage alone is an arbitrary test. The extension will be subservient. It will be a single-story extension with a relatively low ridge height and hipped roofs. As you've heard, the extension will be joined to the main dwelling with a glazed link, which gives the impression of an ancillary building. This extension proposes timber cladding on the external walls, which is an organic material with simple window openings and the use of natural slate roof tiles. We agree with the officer's conclusion that the proposed extension is not inappropriate and would benefit from the exception at NPPF paragraph 154C on Greenbelt. I will now read a statement from the applicants who can't be here today. But we fell in love with this property after seeing it for sale at the auction in 2021 and thought that the semi-rural nature of the road, just a stone's throw from Wimborne, was the perfect place for our family to settle down. This property was full of character, history, and in our dream location. We were fortunate enough to buy this property at the auction. After many years of negotiations between the National Trust, who hold the restrictive covenant, and negotiations with the planning authority and the consultees, we have support of all parties and enables us to finance the restoration of the existing non-designated heritage asset and make the property fit for purpose for us and our 3 young children with a modest extension. We have the full support of all homeowners along Cobbs Road, some of which have written in supporting the scheme. The property has been derelict since 2019 and is in desperate state of repair. We hope that this proposal is considered to be a positive outcome and will save this non-designated heritage asset from further degradation. Positive outcome for the community and by welcoming our family in, and that you're able to support your officer's recommendation and approve this application.
Thank you. Any response to anything that's been said, or?
No, I've got nothing to say.
Thank you. We've thrown it open to the committee. Is that Tony?
Thank you, Chair. Steve, partially from your looked at this application, and I take note about the percentage increase in floor space. This fits entirely with our policies and the NPPF exceptions, and it shouldn't be here. I'll go to approval now, Chairman.
So, Salad House.
Duncan Salad House, Corfmullen Ward. I think this application and the amendments that have been made to it perfectly demonstrate the value of a pre-application meeting with officers. Clearly that's been listened to. I think it is of good design. There isn't development by stealth for an ancillary dwelling here. I'm very content with the application and I'm very happy to second the proposal by Councillor Toombs.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's very painless. Councillor Trice.
Thank you, Chairman. Very briefly, all I would like to say is that I think it's a pity that the parish council has not sent anybody along here today to advise us of their views. I know what they are in summary, but I would have liked to have heard it in a little more detail. I think that's a pity because, as I've often said, I think we should take more notice of what parish and town councils are saying, but they've not done so. That, Chairman, is all I wish to say. Thank you.
Councillor Azad.
Good morning, Chairman. Beryl Azad from Wareham Ward. I'd like to say that with all the conditions and the pre-application advice that they've taken, and also, minding that there has been applications made, and they have actually brought it within, you know, a very good view of what is acceptable in the green belt and actually conservation. And I'm quite willing to actually, you know, see this proposal go through, and I'll second the proposal.
Thank you. So a proposal and 2 seconders. Anybody else wish to make a comment, or shall we move straight to the vote? Okay, all those in favour of grant as per the recommendation, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, unanimous. So PHMU 2024-062H2, 6 Cobbs Road, Hill Hill, is granted. Excellent. Right. We can move on to item number 6, which is 63 Sandhill Lane, Upton, PHMU 2024-07587, presented by Liz Adams. If you want to take it away, Liz.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. This application is before you with a recommendation of refusal. No objection has been raised by the Town Council or ward members, and I think it's before you today due to concern that officers may be too harsh. So here we are. Sandy Lane is a long road in the urban area of Upton. It forms part of a mixed residential character area with properties facing onto the highway behind front gardens. It has a pleasant suburban residential environment. As set out in the officer report, number 63 is a gable bungalow, shown here in the with the red star in the context of its neighbouring properties. And you can see that number 59 has previously been extended slightly forward at the top and the dormer added. And similar arrangements exist on the other side of the road where the properties benefit from front dormers. And you can also see it number 34, which is this one here. You can see my arrow. This one has a raised ridge height with first floor accommodation already. So the officer recommendation of refusal is on the basis that the increase of height of over 2 metres above the existing bungalow, combined with the proposed dormer, will result in a harmful visual impact in this part of the street scene where low ridge heights have been retained. This is the side elevation. The building materials comprise render, grey slate type roofing and composite cladding on the dormer to match the roof, and these are acceptable in this area. And the footprint you can see isn't changing. Previous application was refused, which sought to raise the eaves height as well as the ridge to create more of a 2-storey house. That was refused as being too bulky and visually incongruous in its context. The current scheme seeks to overcome this reason for refusal by reducing the eaves height, which are now only raised by about 30 centimetres. But to maintain space at the first floor, a dormer has been added and the 2-metre increase in height has been retained. The site plan doesn't change, and there's sufficient distance from neighbours that no demonstrable harm to amenity is anticipated, although if members were minded to grant approval, I would recommend a condition to secure obscure glazing of the window here serving bathroom, and also these roof lights here, since they may otherwise cause harm from overlooking of the neighbouring gardens immediately to the rear of the properties. Here we see the dwelling in the street scene, so the one with the red arrow here. This is a rather old Google image, I have to confess, but it was quite helpful in providing the context. The applicant has highlighted other examples of extended dwellings in the locality. As previously mentioned, number 34 on the opposite side of the road was granted permission in 2001 to extend the first floor, and then the dormer was subsequently granted in 2004. This is a more modest scheme. The ridge height is approximately 5.8 metres, which is a metre lower than is proposed. Number 51 is of similar proportions to the proposal, so this goes up higher, but it doesn't have a dormer, and it doesn't contribute to the immediate setting of the planning application site, which is behind this tree further down the road. Number 47 is another gable end property, this time with a side dormer, which you see here, experienced in the same context as number 51 I just showed you. Again, it's a bit further down the road. So yes, it's an example of a gable dormer, but a gable property, but officers don't consider it contributes to the immediate setting of the application sites. And it's a similar response to these ones down. So number 94 Sandy Lane is the application site down here. Number 94 again, gable, this time with 2 windows, as is 56 Sandy Lane, further up here. And these two are more modest, the ones closer to the application site. The council's planning history identifies them as being 6 metres high. It's worth noting that at number 44, which is on the other side of the road and the other side of the junction, an initial proposal incorporating raised eaves was refused by officers, and the inspector agreed with the council that the development would result in a massing in a bulk that was materially in contrast to its immediate neighbours and other similar gable-fronted properties along the street, resulting in a harmful impact. A subsequent application has been approved with the gable. So officers, we look at each application on its merits and in the context so it is seen. So just to return to the elevation plans as a recap, that's what's proposed before you. And in summary, officers have been unable to recommend approval in this case due to concern that the increase in the height and the bulk would not positively integrate with the street scene in the immediate context of the application site, contrary to policy E12.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one public speaker on this, which is for the applicant or agent, who is Neil McKeon. Again, Neil, if you would take a seat, if you operate the microphone switch to speak, and as I say, House 30 seconds left of your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members. My name is Neil McKeown from Puretime Planning, speaking on behalf of the applicant, Mr. and Mrs. Grouse. In November last year, the householder application to expand the first floor roof form was refused, the primary objection being the impact of raising the eaves and the ridge height, which would have an effect on the existing street scene, but specifically the character appearance of the 6 bungalows of numbers 59 to 69 Sandy Lane. The revised roof expansion creates new first floor bedrooms and toilet. The space is crucial to serve the applicant's growing family needs both now and in the future. The proposal raises the existing eaves level by 300 mil and the overall ridge height to 6.8 at its tallest point in the apex. Neither the original nor the revised has received any objection in respect to harm to neighbouring privacy or amenity. Despite the strong presence of cladding throughout the road, the revised plans has removed part of this to address the officer's previous concerns. So the sole objection remains the impact on the immediate street scene. The revised roof design with cropped front and rear features is considered more in keeping with the surrounding development on both sides of Sandy Lane. The reduced eaves height in conjunction with the roof design is not out of step with properties throughout the broader area. The supporting planning statement and visual examples illustrate the wide variety of chalet bungalows and two-story housing, which has developed over time through a series of householder remodels and extensions, many of which sees changing eaves and ridge heights amongst neighbouring properties of differing scale. These are prevalent directly opposite the application site at the similarly proportional number 34, but also at numbers 18, 28, 47, 47, or sorry, 44, 47, 94, under just to name a few. The officer's focus has been on the specific context of the 6 bungalows at numbers 59 to 69 and how the proposal will be harmful in this isolated snapshot of the street scene. It's acknowledged these 6 bungalows have not been overly extended. However, this should not restrict or prevent against such extensions or modifications in perpetuity. Any of these properties, including number 63, should have the opportunity, as housing throughout Sandy Lane, of being extended to cater for families to grow and for the housing to grow with them. The microcosm of 6 bungalows does not define the extremely varied character and appearance of Sandy Lane. The ridge height is taller than its immediate neighbours, but this does not by definition mean an altered roof form cannot assimilate into the street scene or contribute to the overall character and appearance of the area. In summary, the officer's previous objections have been taken into consideration as part of the revised application. The roof changes deliver the floor space to serve the applicant, whilst also allowing for a more traditional design of reduced scale and bulk from its predecessor. No objections have been raised by the neighbouring parties, board councillors, or the town council, and as noted, there hasn't been an impact cited to the privacy and amenity of neighbouring properties. The applicant extends their thanks to the members of the committee for their opportunity to be heard at today's committee. They're a local family with children in nearby schools, and the first floor expansion of the property will meet all aspirations and allow them to plan for their future on Sandy Lane, which is their priority. Thank you. With this in mind, I ask members to take this into consideration and offer your support today. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Mr. McKeon. Liz, you wish to respond to that?
And I think
In which case we'll move to committee members. Councillor Brenton.
Councillor Brenton, Alex Brenton, one of the ward members for Litchett and Upton. So this is in my ward. I regularly go down Sandy Lane. It's a long road. There is a vast range of different styles in that road, many of which, not immediately to 63, but further down, are huge modern versions. So as you go down the road, you're not really aware that there's a, should we say, a distinct street character at all. And if you look, if you could scroll back to screen 10, I think it is, or on there. This is what definitely shows to me, although generally speaking, Sandy Lane is relatively level, there are natural changes in height, ground height. And if you see that, you know, another couple of meters there, which would possibly reach to where the bottom of the arrow is, I don't think I would notice when I walked down that road, which I do quite regularly. So I do think we're being a little bit over emphatic about a village character, which as far as most people in Sandy Lane doesn't exist. That would be my point of view. It's noticed that the town council, it's not a parish council, who have quite an active planning committee, didn't raise any objections, and nor have the ward members. I'll leave it to other people to talk first, but I would consider proposing rejecting the planning officer's recommendation. So therefore allowing this, but you know, let everybody else speak first.
That's not a proposal at this particular instance, but
I'm minded to in future.
Okay. Councillor Azar.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Azar from Wareham Ward. I go down this road quite a lot, and I don't understand why this particular planning application is too, what was it said, that it's actually incongruous and too large, the area. As the previous councillor was saying, you know, a lot of the other houses along that road have been enlarged and heightened, and some of them have been radically changed. So I don't think it would be out of keeping to have this extension going up. You know, although it be 6.8 meters, I don't think it will be out of place. And I would like to see the floor plan for the first floor. I don't know if you saw that. Have you got the floor plan of the first floor? What does that entail actually? Is that 3 bedrooms and a bathroom or something like that? If it's a growing family, I mean, that is obviously needed for that. 1, 2, 3. So I was just curious. Yeah.
2 large bedrooms and a bathroom.
Liz?
Yeah, through you, Chair. So it's a bedroom at the front, bedroom at the back, ensuite and bathroom.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to see this granted actually. So if I mean, I don't know if there's much more debate on it, but I would like to propose that it overturns the refusal that the planning officer makes and granted.
Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think having lived in areas where people have had roof extension, there's never been too much out of character in the area. I mean, where I live, we've got various styles, and I think having heard the views of the two planning members who actually know the area, and I think if they're not concerned about the proposed over height, and I think the applicant has tried to rectify some of it, I think I will go along and suggest that I second the proposal to refuse the planning officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sally House.
Councillor Sally House, Porthmollen Ward. I'm content with the proposal and second. I would just like to see the officer request for the obscured glazing to the window on the side elevation to be included within that if the proposer and seconder are content.
Thank you. Yeah, if the decision of this committee is to grant, then there will be the usual conditions to be attached, which, thank you, Liz. And does anybody wish to say anything more? Well, the slew. Councillor Thorpe was first, and it was rippled through Councillor Benson and then Councillor Shright.
Councillor Southwark, Porthmollen. I think the committee would definitely recognise that application brought before us was not in keeping with the surrounding area. And from what I'm hearing from the rest of the committee, none of us recognize that as what's happening today. There are a variety of properties, varied heights, varied styles on this road. And I think this would just be part of that street scene of a variety of properties. So I would support the application, not to approve the rejection, but to approve.
To move approval because it hasn't been. There's no proposal to reject it.
Yeah.
Councillor Benson.
Thank you, Litchett Upton, ward member. Can I also point just a couple of other points that I think it is quite significant that on screen 9, you see that even with the proposal, the front building line has not been broached, whereas many of the others have come forward. And I think that would be feel far more closed in on a street if all houses creep towards the road. So I see nothing wrong with this design. So I move to accept the planning application. It's not to accept the proposal from the officer, but to accept the planning application. And can I just point out that this is going to happen again and again. A bungalow of that size is affordable to people who may not be able to afford a 3-bedroomed house, and then they have a family. So if we want growing families, we want young people in our schools, we have to have some houses they can move into. And this actually enables families to stay in the area and work in the area and have children in the area. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Chairman. I was originally minded to support the recommendation that Councillor Brenton in her first speech has persuaded me otherwise. So I shall be supporting this, which is quite right to move the acceptance of the proposal, not from the officers, but the planning application itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further speakers? No. Okay, so we have a proposal which has been seconded, and that proposal is to reject the officer's recommendation to reject the application. So everyone clear on the words before. So we're voting effectively to approve this application. So those in favour of rejecting the officer's recommendation. Which is Councillor Sally House, who is ward member. We also have Councillor Scott Florrick, who is not registered to speak, just stepped aside because he's also a ward member. So, Councillor Sally House.
Good morning. I respectfully back better preserve the visual harmony of the road. Furthermore, the proximity of the extension to the shared access risks creating a cluttered and overbearing appearance, undermining spatial quality and impacting the amenity outlook and light to number 8. NPPF paragraph 130 also stresses the importance of maintaining local distinctiveness. This encroachment challenges that principle, causing a harmful alteration to the street scene's balance. Members should also consider how this application has come about. The initially approved application drew no objection from the resident at number 8. However, during construction, discord grew towards the neighbour from today's applicant. The build then progressed contrary to the planning permission. The resident at number 8 contacted ward councillors who confirmed with the planning officer that the building was unlawful. Enforcement were notified and contact was made with the applicant. A halt was in place on the enforcement action with the submission of the application before you today. Despite this, the building continued, along with the negative impact which has been demonstrated in some of the photographs of today's presentation. This exemplifies what some members refer to as balance. The intent is not to dispute the presenting officer, but offer an opportunity to support the integrity of the planning process. I've also provided material planning considerations to inform your decision and enable you to do this. I suggest this was no accident or misunderstanding, but a deliberate attempt to undermine the planning process. Approving this application would send a message suggesting developers can do what they like and worry about it later. I suggest the essence of this application demonstrates total contempt for our planning system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sally House. We have no further speakers on that. Liz, do you wish to respond to that at all?
Thank you, Chair. Only to remind members that all applicants have the right to submit a retrospective application, and that it's necessary that applications are determined on their planning merits rather than on the way in which an application has come to the council. Thank you.
Am I right in saying that if something goes to enforcement, one of the first actions enforcement will take is to advise them to see if they can get permission for what's been made? Is that right?
That's correct. Where there's a likelihood that there's a possibility they would get permission. Yeah.
Thank you. So, open to committee. Anybody want to say anything to start with? Councillor Brent.
Thank you, Chair. It's usually me. Alex Brenton, ward member for Litchett and Upton. I am rather confused about this one. As in, these pictures show that this has actually been built, and that wouldn't have happened in a day. So when the enforcement officer went round, he put a stop order on it, and that has been ignored, in which case surely it's a breach, it's a legal breach. So that's very concerning. And there is that element of, as the previous councillor said, if it's seen that one can just ignore planning officers and carry on regardless, that does sort of set a precedent, which is not what we want. So that's one thing. The other part, going back to the photographs, which I had somewhere up in front of me, I'm to understand, where do we get to now further? No, it's the other one, which shows much more clearly that one, like the picture 5 and the picture 4. We have, the original application appeared to be for a fairly narrow one car garage. That what has been built is one in front of the other, and I suspect you don't get a car at the far end. So it's been built wider and longer for a modern car, which might be logical if that's what you're after, but that's not what they originally asked for. This does seem quite imposing on the street scene. I know this is not a street where people walk down and look, and it is in the front garden, but 17 centimetres is not a hell of a lot of a setback, is it? So I am very concerned that if they do it, the next guys could do it. That roof is going to be pouring water onto the neighbour's drive. This is sort of very much encroachment on your neighbours, and I can quite see that it can cause discord in the area. So I am very concerned about this one. Can I get some elucidation from the planning officers? Is the rule that water must be contained on its own property, how much weight can we give to that? Because it certainly doesn't appear to be. It's so close. The guttering doesn't seem desperately adequate. There doesn't appear to be rainwater barrels underneath to collect the rainwater. They've put in what looks like concrete standing. It's all a bit imposing, overbearing, and not conducive to sort of a pleasant street scene. That's my points. And I do notice that there have been a fair few complaints.
Councillor Brenton, anybody else? Myself.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Whale Ward. For clarity, and Councillor Brenton also mentioned it, has this already been built? And if so, can we see a real picture of it in actual fact? Or is that picture number 5 that you've got on the screen?
Number 6,
at the front of it. So this is a retrospective planning for that. Whereas I understood when I read through the papers that the builder got it wrong and they built the garage within, outside what was accepted on the planning previously. So was it that this actual one on the current proposal, was that what they built, and now they're asking retrospectively to have that, sort of granted by the planning committee? So can you just answer that one for clarity, please?
Please.
Thank you, Chair. The extension that's taken place is fully in accordance with the approved plans, except that the original block plan that you see here on the screen anticipated that there would be a gap of 1 metre between the front of the boundary and the front of the extension. When they built it, they realised that the measurements were wrong. So the extension is 6 metres deep. That's been checked exactly as in accordance with the elevation plans. But it's not correct on the block plan because the block plan did not show the dimensions of the front driveway properly.
Thank you. Well, I'm of the opinion, the same as Councillor Brenton, that this is what can I say, is a blatant, planning mistake, but it should have been made clear from not only the owner but to the builder that something was wrong here at you know, when he was building it. So I can't understand why it's got this far where it's actually built and then come back, because that to me smacks of, you know, we're going to do it anyway, regardless, and we will get it because it's already built. And I think that is completely wrong. And I don't believe we should be granting this under those terms. Thank you.
Thank you. So do we understand that the drawings are wrong in that the plans showing the middle section here, the approved plan, is what was built, but the site dimensions were wrong. So the net effect is that what was originally 1.3 metre gap between the garage door and the edge of the site is now only 17 centimetres. So if you look at the picture on the hazard number, the picture number 5, showing the there. So if you look at the picture number 6 there, that blue door should be about a metre further back. Is that what the original plans would have shown?
That's correct, yes, because the garage, in order to be a functional garage, it needs to be 6 metres deep, and that's how it's been built. It's just that gap that's different.
Thanks. Councillor Coombs.
Thank you, Councillor Coombs, Burwood Ward. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself properly in the previous application. I think it's a very difficult situation for the applicant, because as the officer has just said, the depth of the garage is at a minimum size. And if you look at the ground floor layout, once you have a car in that garage, there is no room to move it further back because the area narrows, which would then allow a car to be parked within the garage if you shorten the space. However, if the boundary had been as suggested on the approved plan, then 1.3 metres is fine, and that's why it was granted. However, we're tasked with material planning considerations, and for me, it's about the impact on the character and appearance in the street scene. I do understand the difficulty that this gives the applicant, because if you move the front of the garage back to allow the 1.3 metres, then you won't get a car in the garage. And I'm sorry, that, to my mind, is a legal matter between the applicant and the person who prepared their drawings. And that should be dealt with outside of here. Our remit is planning considerations. And as I said, the impact on the character and appearance, and my view is, in this case, there is a detrimental impact on the character and appearance because the building extension has been built right up to the edge of the boundary, particularly as it's not a blank wall, it's the access into the garage. And I find it unacceptable, so therefore I will move refusal.
Thank you, Councillor Coombs. Councillor Bill Trott.
Councillor Bill Trott, Swanage Ward, and apologies too for not introducing myself properly previously. I agree entirely with what Councillor Coombs has just said, and I'd like to second her proposal for rejection. What really should occupy our minds is the conditions within the NPPF as outlined by the local member, and consequently, I'm afraid this building is overbearing and imposing on the street scene. It's out of line with other houses in the street, and most of all, if I have to sum it up, I would say it's out of character and out of the appearance of the rest of the area. So I have no hesitation in supporting Councillor Coombs's proposal for rejection. Oh, and leaving aside any contempt for the planning authority, which I'm afraid I think this does show. That's not acceptable, but what should concern us, and apparently is the strict planning considerations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trike. You identified a number of material planning considerations. I'll ask if Councillor Coombs agrees with.
A reiteration of what I've already said.
Okay, in which case, David Morgan, Councillor David Morgan.
Yeah, David Morgan, Wimborne ward. Sorry, I didn't do it at the beginning. My question is, assuming that we, revert this back, or we don't agree. I mean, is there going to be any alteration? Are they going to knock the garage down? If the enforcement do it, that's a question that arises. We can say what we like, but if the building's there and it would stay there for
the first one.
Time immemorial. That is the point. Just a query out of interest.
Understood. I think I'm going to ask the officers to respond to that. Kim, would you like to?
If members refuse the scheme, then it goes back to enforcement. There will be a question of expediency. Members have obviously taken that view, and there a judgment will be made as to whether to serve the notice, for them to then rectify the works that have been undertaken. But that's a separate process. Yeah. And they can't, because it can't be put back to be in accordance with the permission, because it's
space.
It's already been done. So
you can't extend the boundary.
No.
Okay, so who gets right?
Sorry, Chair, if I may, they've also got the right, if you refuse it, then they've got the right to appeal. So obviously it's not over yet, because the applicant would have the opportunity to challenge that decision. But that's just the normal process, isn't it? There's nothing different there.
So, any questions following that explanation? Are we happy to understand the situation? Councillor Benson? No?
No problem.
Okay, so we've had a proposal, which is to refuse the permission, effectively. So, again, to go against the officer recommendation to approve. That proposal has been seconded. We've had some material planning considerations put forward as a reason for it. So, all those in favour of. Sorry.
Please confirm if the officers sorry, could the councillor that proposed please confirm their agreement with the officers drafted as an accurate representation of what she intended. Thank you.
Okay.
Pretty much. Yes, you've got impact and character and appearance. So yes, I'm happy. Sorry, to put Markham.
Bill, you seconded, are you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, does anybody else have a point to make? Question to ask? I'll take that as a no. So all those in favour of overturning the officer's recommendation to grant and effectively.
I'm sorry, Chair, it's not overturning an officer recommendation, it's a proposal to refuse.
Yes.
The officer recommended that we grant. So the proposal is to not grant. And that is an overturning of the officer's recommendation. Seems fairly simple English.
Seems fairly convoluted, Chair, but I'll
double negatives.
I put my rules.
Disagree, however. All those in favour of refusing this application, let's simplify it. Please show your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Unanimous.
It's a bit double negatives.
So recommendation
refusing
this application being HAV 2024 03895 is refused. If they wait for our list of councillors to be returned.
Someone gone?
Megan's just gone.
And after that, we'll move on to P4 2023 008 Blue Waters.
Sorry? Is this one? It's Stubborn's one.
In a moment. We'll wait while they rejoins.
We've had this one before. Another three. Plot can't be right, but some that was a quick meeting. Still a quick meeting.
Exactly
Still on.
We need a ladder. Compared with last month, that's quite brisk.
Welcome back. Councillors Towie House and Scott Morris. We're moving on to agenda item 8. So, agenda item 8, Blue Waters, Mitcham Hayden, Green Estate, Studland, P4 2023 00864. We have probably speak on this later on, but let's start with Ms. Adams.
Yes, thank you. So this application previously became before you members in September last year. At that point, we had only just started accepting credits as an effective mitigation measure for nitrogen issues in Poole Harbour. And you determined to grant planning permission subject to a legal agreement to secure affordable housing contribution and 19 conditions. This application is only before you today because officers need to add a further 20th condition in order to secure limitations that are already imposed by building regs, but to make them slightly more onerous in order that the nitrogen credits can be effectively relied upon. So I've just given you a couple of slides as a recollection of where we're talking about. We're in the Glebe estate, and these were there's 2 houses here, but the third is behind us, 2 at the front, 1 behind, that were recommended for approval. Now, the legal agreement to secure the affordable housing contribution has been signed and is pending sealment by the legal team. So all of that has been resolved. But the extra condition is to request that there is a limitation on the potential consumption of wholesome water to 120 litres per day. So members may be aware that approved document G of the building regulations was updated relatively recently to require that new dwellings should have a limit of 120 litres per person per day. And they do that through fittings. So it just means that we're looking at efficient water fittings on showers, toilets, dishwashers, and it tries to reduce the amount of water that we're all using. But the credit calculator that we're using it makes an assumption that the wholesome water usage will be a maximum of 120 litres per day. So that's why we're asking for the condition to be imposed. So it just changes it from 125 as by building regs to 120. So, excuse me. So the recommendation is to carry on with your previous agreement to grant planning permission, but add this additional condition. And I have included the part about refusing it if we don't get the agreement signed, but that is on the cusp of being signed. So that's just the back. I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Liz. We do have a book speaker, as I said before. This is the applicant or agent, which is Claire Stone. Again.
Chairman and committee members, thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this application. As you'll be aware, committee members recently considered the application and resolved to approve the proposal. And the only reason that this is before you again is to consider this further condition relating to water efficiency. Everything else is unchanged and there have been no material change in circumstances. The applicants are very happy to see that the officers have continued to recommend the application for approval, and I trust you're able to see this recommendation. Just to recap, Litchin Haven is one of the properties proposed to be demolished. It's a linked detached dwelling of little architectural merit and needs significant work to bring the property up to modern day living standards. The building does not make the best use of the site and is at odds with the layout of the existing dwellings on the estate. It detracts from the existing built form of the remainder of the dwellings on the estate. Blue Haven is a detached dwelling which gained planning permission in the 1990 to demolish it and replace it with a split level dwelling, and the permission was renewed again in February 96. This proposal was to remove both dwellings and take the opportunity to rationalise the combined plots, which allows replacement with the three carefully and sensitively designed dwellings that make best use of the combined site area, while still respecting the position of the land in relation to its neighbours and the immediate wider landscape, and also being mindful of its location within the national landscape. The site is located within the defined settlement boundary, so as such there is no objection in principle to replacing the existing dwellings and to take the opportunity to reorganise the plot layouts. The scheme has been conceived to arrange the development sensitively on the site, allowing for adequate separation distance between built forms, such that the development will appear to sit comfortably within the surrounding built form context, whilst protecting the immunity of the surrounding neighbours. The proposal has purposefully taken a cue from the more modern redevelopment schemes approved on the estate over the years. However, the three dwellings have been individually designed so that a pleasant visual variety and mix will exist. The materials of construction are of high quality, incorporating perfect stone, render, timber cladding, and composite cladding and grey aluminium windows. And these textures and colours combine to give a robust quality finish and a modern addition to the street scene. With consideration at the impact of the development in context with wider estate, the proposals sit comfortably in line with the way the land slopes down from north to south on the wider hillside. I trust you are able to continue to support your office's recommendation and approve this application, particularly given that there have been no change in circumstances that would result in you arriving at an alternative decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anything that you want to respond to there, Liz? Nope. Okay. Look, we have this floor. So just to confirm, what we're looking at is something we already looked at this committee, in fact, and approved. Yeah. And we're just adding a condition to that, which has been prompted by the regulations. 120 litres rather than 125 litres per person. And we're just adding a condition to that previous approval. So does anyone wish to make a statement? Councillor Sally House.
Thank you, Councillor Sarryhouse Court. I remember this application really well from previously considering it. I thought it was a good design then, good use of space. This amendment doesn't affect that original decision in any way. I support the amendment, and I'm happy to propose that we accept this and the officer recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Rezaad.
Perhaps I missed something. On reading this, I can't understand why it's come forward when usually when you put in a planning application, you can't add extra things to it after the fact, especially as we granted permission in September. So I don't quite understand why this has come back, and about the nitrogen or the water consumption when it was granted. That means all of the applications that we've granted in the last few months have the same condition coming back. So can you explain why this particular one has been picked out as being, for this reason? And I thought it was, when I read it myself, I thought that the applicant was actually supposedly within 6 months having to pay something towards the affordable housing, had either refused or didn't want to. So I thought that was the condition, and things that it came forward again. So it wasn't clear to me. So can you clarify that, please? I know it sounds a bit of a stupid question, but I would like some clarity. Thank you.
Okay, let's can Carol have a chance to perhaps answer that.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Councillor has issued a resolution to grant consent subject to completion of the Section 6 agreement. That process hasn't been concluded. And so this modification we bring back to committee. So permission hasn't been granted. Members resolved to grant consent. And because of this change, we bring it back to you for you to be aware that we're adding something else before we issue that. Okay. And the Constitution requires us to do that.
Thank you. That doesn't make it clear to me, but I'll accept that.
Thanks. My understanding that this is something that the council wishes to change, not the applicant, but the applicant is perfectly happy with the proposal. We have a planning application that hasn't actually been granted yet. There's the Section 106, where we're amending it to include this proposal as well. This is what the council wish to do, rather than the applicant putting in an alteration. Councillor Hobbs-Chav.
Thank you, Councillor Hobbs-Chav and South Ward. I agree with Councillor Sarryhouse's comments, and I'm very happy to second.
Any more? Councillor Brenton.
Councillor Brenton, Litchfield and Upton Ward. This is a query, purely a query. We've got 3 houses here, all of whom are going to have swimming pools on the ground floor. Does that affect the water usage? Is that sort of something that's taken into consideration? Because I would have thought that would have to, I mean, I know they don't change the water every day, but surely there's a higher water usage in that sort of situation. I just sort of like, how does that come into the calculations?
Thank you.
I need to say that this condition requires the developer to just provide us with information about how they're going to meet the building regulation requirement. I mean, 120 litres is still quite a lot. So I think they'll probably manage to get the extra bit in.
Although it wouldn't kill swimming pool. But it is wholesome water rather than water for swimming in. I don't know if that makes it.
But surely it must have been wholesome before they put the chlorine in.
Yeah, it's a definition of wholesome water.
They don't use grey water for it, do
they? I think wholesome water would be any water that you receive from a water company.
Means.
There's an assumption. Okay. Any further thoughts, comments, questions? So we had a proposal, we've had a seconder. So the proposal was to follow the recommendation. Any further comments? No. Shall we move to vote? All those in favour of the recommendation, please show your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's unanimous.
Everything's so fun.
So, people 2023-00864 Blue Waters and Richmond Haven is approved. We have no urgent items, as I've been informed about, and there's no exempt business. So in that case, I was about to say 10, but it's 11:27. The meeting closed. Thank you all very much.
No, exactly. I keep pointing it out. It's a very short meeting. Yes, there's a bit of report
Those
to come.
councillors who want to stay or are able to stay, and it's going to be a short